Deva Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamati Nashtaprayesha Bhadresha Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki. So, continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, today we'll start chapter 12, Devotional Service. So this is the last chapter of the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the, what we can say, it is the epitome of Bhagavad Gita, because this is where Krishna will talk about devotion service, pure devotion service, and how to perform and what's the benefit of performing devotion service. Text 1. So previous, in the 11th chapter, towards the end, last words of 11th chapter, Krishna said, "My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotion service, free from contaminations, of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me." So means bhakti is a topmost yoga. Now Arjuna says, Evam satat yukta ye bhaktasvam paripaste ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga uttamaha. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in their devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So now Arjuna is asking, do you talk about devotion service? So what is more perfect? Serving you or unmanifest, the Brahman, impersonal Brahman? Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is impersonalist and the other is personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself, not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. So they both are transcendentalists. Means transcendentalism have nothing to do with the material world. I mean, his concentration or his attention is towards spiritual. Now, spirituality is impersonal or personal. Now, Arjuna is asking for sure, tell me, which is better? We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth of the yoga, devotional service is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. So for impersonalists, they do meditation. Personalists, for people who believe Krishna is a person, they belong directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that bhakti yoga or devotional service to him is the highest of all. It's the most with God. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark. And the absolute truth is a spiritual whole, and being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again in the 8th chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body at once is transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of 6th chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all the yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna. For that is the highest spiritual realization. So basically, towards the end of every chapter, I mean, of course, when Krishna and Arjuna were speaking, they were not saying this is end of chapter 6 and end of chapter 7. But this is how Acharyas, or probably Vedvyasi himself, has demarcated that this is the end of this chapter and this is the end of this chapter, because that's where one particular theme ended. So that theme, somehow, it always ends with that conclusion that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna and should be doing bhakti. But since so many people have written commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, they all conclude in their own way. But if you look at the 11th chapter, the last words, it clearly talks about how can commentators miss it, and they interpret in their own way. Nevertheless, form of Krishna. This is one of the beauties of Vedic literature, that it gives a chance to everybody. It's not like Krishna in Bhagavad Gita said that you worship me in my personal form, otherwise you always go to hell, or everybody is not worshipping me in the personal form and they should be kicked out of the society or whatever. Krishna doesn't do that. This is Krishna, like previous chapter also and other further verses. He'll say, I am the seed-giving father. And seed-giving father, the father can never be so angry with his kids that he put them in hell forever, just because they don't worship him in that particular form. It still gives them a chance. Here they say, there are still those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. But Krishna is not taking them or cast them out. He still gives them a chance. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahmajyoti. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. So there are people who want to meditate on the impersonal form, on the Brahmajyoti, which is fine. This is what they want to do. That's okay. It's not the best, but they have a choice. And so, factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most own position, because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what's the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best, because he could thus understand all to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of our Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth. So he wants to clarify it further. Text 2. Shri Bhagwan Vacha Maya Veshya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhya Paryopetasте Me Yukta Tamamataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. Now Krishna is saying they are most perfect according to me, according to him. So there is no room for any doubt or any contradiction. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he or reads books about marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes, whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. But then the question arises, a pure devotee, like Prabhupada says, constantly engaged in the service of Krishna. But then people who are in this class, they can ask, oh Prabhu, I cannot be constantly engaged because I have to do my job, I have to take care of my family, I have to spend time with my kids, I have to spend time with my parents or in-laws, with my husband, with my wife, and I have to do so many other things. So where is the time? But first we have to understand who is Krishna speaking to, this Bhagavad Gita. He is speaking to Arjuna. Arjuna is a grandson. Arjuna is a warrior. Arjuna is a king. And he has to do all those so-called other activities much more than we have to. After this, listening to whole Bhagavad Gita, he fought in the war and he killed so many people. But that was also considered as devotional service because he was doing it for Krishna. He didn't do it for himself. He did it as a service to Krishna. So the idea is to purify and to engage our consciousness first in service of Krishna. Then our activities are engaged in the service of Krishna. So means first we have to become Krishna conscious. It's a process. Of course, chanting is also the goal, but chanting right now is a process. Everything else is a process for us to become Krishna conscious. When we are doing our jobs, if we do our job diligently, if our dealings with our co-workers, with our boss, with our subordinates, with everybody we meet, is in that mode, we look at them, they are all servants of Krishna. They are all creations of Krishna. And one who loves Krishna, he cannot deal with others in a wrong way. Just like 11th chapter, last verse, if go back again, here, and who's friendly to every living being. So this friendly to every living being is part of devotional service. It's not like devotional service is only when we are chanting or listening to Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. That's my devotional service. The rest of the time, it's not. No. Bhakti is 24 hours a day, hours a day. Of course, somebody can do that. That will be great, but it's not practical. Let me read that paragraph, which I did yesterday, from that last verse of 11th chapter. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy, Nirvara, How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, Krishna consciousness, in the history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. And Prabhupada did call him Lord Jesus Christ. He didn't just say Jesus Christ. He gave him that title, or that position. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading Krishna consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Means Jesus Christ cannot be killed by these non-devotees. Similarly, in India also there are many examples, such as Thakur Haridas and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it's difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if in fullness of his eternal relationship with Krishna, therefore the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving his neighbor from a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. So means a devotee of Krishna is friendly with everybody. With everybody, means with everybody. Means even with those who don't like us, who play politics with us, who hate us, or who do all kinds of nonsense things. A devotee is friendly. So this friendliness is not something we think that it is bhakti. It is all part of bhakti. Our behavior with the kids, with us, with other relatives, it's all part of bhakti. It's not away from bhakti. It's not separate. Bhakti is not just when we sit down and chant around, that's all bhakti. No, that is preparing us for the rest of the day. So this is what we have to understand. Like somebody asked, how should we deal with our kids or devotional way? That's all. Understanding we are part and parcel of Krishna, and the other person is also part and parcel of Krishna. Nothing can happen without Krishna's sanction. Everything that is happening in my life is by the mercy of Krishna, it's by the sanction of Krishna. And Krishna, I am a devotee of Krishna, so he will not let me down. He will always take care of me. He will always protect me. We have to have that faith. And then when we deal with others, we have to deal with others in such a way that they have a favorable impression of Krishna and Krishna's bhakti. They have a favorable impression towards us. Just like and understanding our karma is our karma, we cannot run away from it. There is no way. Just like listening to Shivani Devi, and she correctly, she puts a karma philosophy in this way that if I am getting in my life and somebody is throwing a black ball at me, if somebody is throwing a black ball at me, means he is doing something negative against me, means I have thrown that black ball at him sometime earlier, maybe this lifetime, maybe previous lifetime. So what is the solution? If we throw the black ball back at him or her, He will still throw the black ball at us. Means we cannot change others. We cannot expect others to change. We have to change ourselves. So we have to start throwing the white ball at him. Means even if he is sending a black ball, which is my own reaction, reaction to my own karma, let me still throw the white ball. That is a sign of a devotee. He tolerates. He's patient. And tolerance of what? Tolerance of my own doing, tolerance of reactions of my own karmas. What else we can do except to tolerate? Nothing. We can react, we can retaliate. What will it do? It will just increase a karmic reaction. That's all. So as a devotee, we have to develop, 12th chapter towards the end, we'll see so many verses, 4 or 5 verses where Krishna talks about the qualities of a devotee. What kind of qualities we have to develop. And those we have to develop. Of course, chanting will help, association, reading, service, that will all help in making those qualities come forward fast. But still, we have to work on those. We have to develop peacefulness, patience, tolerance. So many wonderful qualities Krishna talks about towards the end of 12th chapter. We have to develop. And that means when we develop those qualities, then sometimes in the day-to-day life, we have to display those qualities also. I love that Sankarshan Prabhu's quote says, you devotee, you have to think like a devotee also. And once we think like a devotee, naturally our words and our actions will follow that thought. And that thought will be there if we have that consciousness, if we develop that consciousness of a devotee. That's the whole idea. I don't want to say it's difficult because again, once I listen to Shivani Didi and it also makes sense. She says, more we tell our mind that this idea or this process is difficult, it will definitely become difficult. We tell us, Krishna, soul. And these are the qualities of a spirit soul. This is not something artificial. In the spiritual world, everybody is like that. I come from here. I'm stuck here, but I'll come from there. So these are my qualities. It's not something that's unnatural or something I'm going to act like or take over. What we are acting like right now, that is not that is not me. So it's not every day that I am a spirit soul. I'm a peace loving, I'm a patient, I'm determined soul. I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm friendly with them. I love everybody because they all are part and parcel of Krishna. So these these programming when we do. So that's why we say, chanting. We're asking Krishna, please engage in your service. Means I have to get back to my original position, or original swarup, original constitutional position as a soul, as a peace-loving, as a whole, spiritual soul. Then only I can be engaged properly in Krishna's service. So that programming has to go on, and that is attentive chanting. That is conscious chanting. So while dealing with others also, we have to keep on reminding ourselves. Okay, we can make mistakes, fine. But then we take a note of that, and then we promise ourselves, I'll not make the same mistake again. And then we keep going. That's all it is. That's all sadhana bhakti is. It's a struggle because we are trying to remove this artificial covering of Maya on our consciousness, and we are trying to get back to our original, spiritual, very loving consciousness. Covering has been there for millions and millions of lifetimes. So we have to remove that covering. But any covering, any hardship, any obstacles, they are all material. Spirit soul is spiritual and is very, very powerful. Just like Krishna is a part and parcel of Krishna. So Krishna is powerful, spirit soul is also very powerful. Material coverings cannot do anything to that soul. It's just we have forgotten our power. Just like Hanumanji was reminded of his powers, and he jumped over the whole ocean and did everything in Lanka, came back. All we have to do is remind ourselves of our powers, and we can do it. It's not a big deal. Text 3 and 4. Ye tvaksharam sarvatragamam achintyam cha kutashtham achalam dhruvam sannyamyendriya gramam sarvatra samabhadaya te praptavanti mameva sarvabhutite tatha. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. So here also he says they'll achieve me, but at last, long time. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead and indirect process also ultimately achieve the same goal, Shri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. So Prabhupada is quoting this verse from Bhagavad Gita on these Bahunam Janmana Ante Gyanvan Mam Prapadyat. So person who is devoted or who is meditating on the impersonal, unmanifested aspect of Krishna, he has knowledge. So after many, many lifetimes, after a long time, then he comes to the point of understanding that I have to surrender unto Krishna. So this process of spirituality, process of making progress on any path of transcendentalist way of living, it's not a process of one lifetime. It takes many, many lifetimes, many lifetimes. So that's why this path, Vedic literature, there is no confusion of contradiction actually. When Krishna said this is the they can follow that if they'll go to him. But and also it doesn't mean that those who are devotees, they haven't pursued the impulsive path in the previous some lifetime. It doesn't mean that. So whoever is taking up the process of bhakti, great. Whoever is not, We can preach, we can help, but if it's not ready to take it up, it's also okay. Let him at least become a well-wisher. Let him at least, even if he is doing meditation on isolation, let him do it nicely. That's all. So maybe, and those who are on the path of bhakti, let them become more determined, more sincere in their process. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead, control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings, it is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. So if a person is on that path, it's fine. There is no problem. One has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the super soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. It is difficult, no doubt, but it's still because like in the next verse, Krishna will explain why is it difficult. But even if somebody wants to take up the guidance to everybody, text 5. Kleshoditarastesham avyakta saktachetasam avyakta higatar dukkham devandhiravakite. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress, that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So to make progress in the path of impersonal feature meditation is everybody. Whoever they want to get path, it's okay. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotion service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is Jnana Yoga. Although ultimately bringing one to the same goal is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in the direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. So it's a natural process. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It's very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that. Therefore, the yoga accepts bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be sagun or nirgun of the Supreme, possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is sagun worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil, paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. So the worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, means with attributes. But even if the deity is made of material elements like wood or stone or metal or oil or paint, it is not material, it is spiritual. So that part we have to understand. So then one can make progress in uh, personal or devotion service. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street. And if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation, which may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vidya. Okay, now this post office, I know mailbox example. Of course, when Prabhupada was writing this Bhagavad Gita commentary, mailboxes were very popular, but not these days anymore. And maybe a few years down the road, people might not even understand this example at all. So for them, we can say, um, so we have many apps. Suppose the apps authorized by Google, Gmail, if we use that app and send our mail through that app, the email will go through Gmail and reach the proper recipient. But if we use some other app through Gmail, it's not going to happen. There is no connection. That app is not authorized. So same thing about the deity. God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is emanation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation, as Archa, just to make it convenient for the man in condition of life. So in the form of Archa Vigraha, Krishna can accept our services, just like the letter mail posted in any authorized post box goes to the right recipient. But any form that we make out of wood or stone or metal or oil or paint, it doesn't mean it is authorized Archa Vigraha, authorized form. So that form has to be authorized by the scriptures. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads. And they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service simply by guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity. See, Prabhupada makes it so simple. He said, simply by offering regulative obeisances, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizing. See, Prabhupada made the bhakti yoga process so easy. You just write, simply by guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances, simply by hearing the glory, simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs, simply by chanting. Of course, Prabhupada is right here, I'm adding. It's so simple. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any trouble, or difficulty approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the surrendering process is called bhakti. And what is now Brahman and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path for self-realization. So it is advised. See the word proper using. It's not, he didn't say they will be forced not to take up this path. It is just advised. It is, but still it's the independence of the person. A living entity is eternally an individual soul. And if he wants to merge into the spiritual soul, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of it realized. So the soul has three aspects: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So in Brahm Jyoti, there is Sat. Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, but there is no Ananda. All the three aspects are fulfilled in Vaikuntha Loka, in service of Krishna. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent. One should know position is against the nature of this spiritual, blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. But again, to come to the point of bhakti, on the path of bhakti, we need the mercy of devotees. We have to have that kind of agyat sukriti, the bank balance of sukriti, which allows us to even come in the association. So it's a long process actually. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is a danger of on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses. As already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It's not advised by Lord Krishna. It's not advised, but it's still the independence of the soul to choose whatever path he wants to. So anyway, we'll stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments. Looks like it's too cold in Delhi. So I guess no questions, so we stop here. You all have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy, stay inside, don't go out if it is too cold. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much.
Hare